Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about geopolitics and let's start with the definition.
Geopolitics, that is about how countries and huge organizations deal each with other. For example, you are going to have something in the water, in the ocean, in the river, or you want to take all the grass or all the forest. And in this case, you need to create a situation when everyone will agree to make what you want. But usually, if there is any conflict about any kind of resources, everyone is saying, what is it for me? And everyone is given conditions. So you should be as useful as possible to give all other companies, countries, states so many credits that they will agree whatever you will offer.
If you look at the geopolitics, like from the, I would say like let's pretend this is like a model or even a computer game, if we can go like in a simplified way, like what kind of moving parts or like actors or maybe like attributes of these actors or even the characteristics of the world or location exist there, so which we need to consider when we actually looking into the skill.
You should have in your head multi-layer hierarchy for people, for group you're working with. For example, you should know who is great leader and who is tough leader, who is going to be logic, who is going to be emotional. And you also should understand that this is race not about 1 year or 2 year. It should be like a 50 or 500 years. You know, this is a quite difference. When, for example, people from our territories make agreement, they always think like 1 year, 3 or 5. But when Chinese people make an agreement, they think about like 100 years, and you know it's quite different. So, for example, they will think, is it possible that this lake would drown out for 50 years, and you will never sitting close to them, never will think about this. So you should know which length of their horizon while considering your offer.
And like when we're looking at the geopolitics and ourselves as the person who want to grasp or like wrap their head around about what is going on, obviously, for example, thinking about Lake is might be thinking not really about yourself, but like maybe your party, your team, or like your fraction or whatever. So what kind of skills or knowledge or maybe like even mental models or like behaviors you need to demonstrate in order to be fully aware of what is going on and be on top of the things?
You know, it's very funny, but you should know like 18 skills at once, and all of them should be like on the highest level. And to know so many things, you should been teaching them, I don't know, maybe like for 10 years. This is the reason why if the president or some other weight heavy politics work for two srok term,
Uh,
for 2 terms,
terms.
he or she would be much more um, competent in this. You should know about negotiations. You should know about strategy. You should know about theory of games, how to take decisions, and so on. So many knowledges, and you know there is not any high institution will learn at once. So there is no MBA for this. So our heavyweight politics and presidents, they are so штучный,
Very unique.
very unique. So there is no institution to learn them at once. You should have like 3 education at least.
When we look at all of the forces that actually affect on the geopolitical landscape, so how do we may want to collect all of the information? Because obviously, as you rightfully said, it's a lot to collect and it's a lot to process. And the thing is, like, we also need to know like whether there is something that we may not know, so that at least we know that there is some sort of like a part of the equation which is still not exist yet, but we need to embed them into our model. So if we want to look into how the information should be collected, processed, and then maybe made into the decision, what should be the way here?
Let's discuss not an equation, but maybe row. Is it okay to say ряд, цифровой ряд, digital row?
Yes, or set.
It could be more convenient. And also another word which could be used, it's a comp. For example, when you make your agreement in the business, you will discuss about maybe 5 topics. It's about how long this contract will go on, what is the price, what is the conditions, covenants, who is collateral, something like this. But when you work with the countries or with states, there would be like two comps, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. For example, let's take exactly a situation which is now. In some points, Russia have a friendship with Turkey, but from other side, Turkish people, they create drones for enemies of the Russia. The same with Chinese. Sometimes Chinese do something good for Russia, sometimes quite bad. And there is no white and black, and even there is no gray. There are so many colors, and each condition could not be interfered with other. For example, you are going to buy chicken eggs, but suddenly you will know that China will sell you poisoned wheat, and you couldn't say we will not buy eggs because of the wheat. This is just separated threads, and there are like a lot of them, like millions in the carpet. So you will always have half of your people they will say something, let's do agreement, and half of your people will say let's disconnect from this country because we have so many troubles. So there's not a single contract, not a one-dimensional discussion. It's multi-dimensional discussion and many contracts.
And as you said, like there is probably no such a thing as a like a loyalty or dignity. It's more about like a temporary alliances or blocks of like within different groups, even if it's within the organization or the country itself. So when it comes to like a multi-variation decision making, when obviously like we could like proceed with the different roles. So how the person who is leading geopolitics or someone who is like trying to achieve their goal like through a different maybe even globe groups or blocks, how exactly they should behave in order to assess their chances and also make sure like everyone is like not gonna go against them as well.
You should understand that there is no friendship forever. So if you make a contract or several contracts, you should understand, is it okay for you or not? If you have like 90% in your heart, you agree to the conditions that you could sign. But if you have more, you should reject. It's very funny. When we talk about people, we have a court. When we talk about companies, we have a court. If you have some discussion between person and company, or company and state, or person with state, there is a court, but there are no courts for countries. So each country could provide their own politics in a way which they like to do. So if you sign a contract, you have obligations and there would be consequences. But if you not signing a contract, you will have no cooperation and no consequences. So in many ways, or in many occasions, there could be a long discussions, but no signing of the contracts. By the way, a lot of people, they think that presidents or prime ministers or other high rank officials, they sign a lot of contract on the exhibitions or on the meetings, but to sign this contract, usually Ministry of Foreign Affairs or some other ministry, they're working starting from 9 months to put just one signature for one sign. By the way, if you will note, you will find a very strange thing. For example, there is two presidents, for example, I don't know, Chinese and Indian one, and there are two set of journalists. And if you will watch any channel, Indian or Chinese, they will say quite opposite things. And sometimes it's happen. For example, Chinese president will sign a huge bulk of papers, but Indian small one, so they are not the same size. So sometimes contract signed just from one side, but other side, he or she do not want to sign, and he is saying, okay, if you want, you can sign, but we wouldn't. So we have news. Maxim Golub from China's side has already signed like 200 contracts, but India will say, we have just one.
Well, this is quite interesting. I do believe it's always about like, like how you present information and what is your audience. And when it comes to, like all of the possible things that could go wrong, and I do believe even like, like I was impressed that you said like you need to have at least like 80 skills being mastered. And I guess it's also on top of like many hundreds of other skills. So obviously a lot of things could go wrong. So what are the common mistakes that those experienced or maybe not so experienced people still would do?
First, people are not well prepared. And sometimes when I conduct negotiations, by the way, some of them were done exactly in Dubai on summit of world governments. It was done, and my wife has seen me with prime ministers, by the way, from India also. And we were talking about some contracts, and I was advising what to sign and what not to sign. Suddenly, I realized that a lot of people in the delegation, they know nothing about subject. So sometimes people enter a team not because they well qualified, because they well asked by someone. And you know, it's very pity. So you are talking with people, they know nothing, and they say, come on, if you say we will not sign, if you say we will sign. And I'm saying, come on guys, but you are talking about a huge country. You have more than 1 billion people, and you won't rely just on my opinion. Do you have someone with whom I could maybe discuss something? I have some doubts and I want to discuss, but if there would be no discussion, I am not allowed, and I am not agree to take all responsibility. I have a very small fee. If you will compare it to multi-billionaire contract, I have I don't know, like 1,000 per hour. So you definitely want me to show you what to sign. This is huge mistake.
And probably it might be a time to like a slightly switch a gear, because like if you look at it maybe from the like a casual people point of view, so they may want to say like, hey, there's nothing to divide, like there is an abundance of everything, like just like all of us live in peace. But again, like if I look at it from another point of view, and I do believe there is like a scientific theory lies behind of it, people actually like to have like a separation. Even let's say it's you and your neighbors, like people in your city in one hood and another, and et cetera, et cetera. So it goes to the planetary level. So what might be changed, like when, so that geopolitics will be less simple, like it should be more or less regulated, even as you said, like there is a court and there should be some sort of like a moral or like a jurisdiction or any other types of the rules that should be used as the one thing that would regulate pretty much every single relationship within the countries.
You know, it is not possible because the weight of the country is quite different. There was a discussion which already last, I don't know, maybe for 120 years, how we will think which country is bigger or larger or more important by amount of people. It could be Kenya. For amount of energy, it could be China. For amount of concrete, which was used last year, it could be India, and so on. So there is no measurement which country is more important, and all of them are the same. For example, you could talk with Guatemala, it's quite small country, or Czech Republic. Czech Republic in total has less population than Moscow, just one Russian city. And the same with like islands like Tuvalu or Tuvalu or Palau or some other. They have, by the way, parliament building which is made from plastic. They have imitation, but inside there is nothing. There is empty. So you should understand that if you have a contract with a company or with a person, definitely it would be in some part executed. But if you talk with the country, at any moment they could withdraw all the promises, and it's quite usual. For example, we agree that you will pay for oil in rupees, and you make this payment. And after several days, I will say, "Come on, but your rupees now has a very low price. Can you please pay in any other currency?" And company will say, "Oh, if you do not want our rupees, you are not уважать, respect us, so
Respect.
we will discharge our contract." But where is not respect? There is just economics. But all companies and all people will try to make negotiations. But if you will see how countries work, they have a lot of unsolved issues for 100 years. For example, some countries in the Europe right now in the state of war. They couldn't sign peace contract for 100 years.
Well, then my last question will be how knowing about geopolitics could help to make this world a better place.
Let me give you an example. Was a noise in the Russia that Chinese are trying to pump water from the Baikal, the hugest lake and clearest lake on the earth, and also they cut a lot of trees and so on. But to be honest, if Chinese wouldn't take this wood will гнить,
Roten.
would rotten, and also Baikal Lake, if all people would be утопить, think
Drone.
if all people of whole planet would be drawn in the Baikal, his level would be not more than 1.5 millimeters higher. So Baikal is a very huge amount of water, and even whole China couldn't make a drought. But if you make any contract from side of the country, you will have a lot of people who will say we are against it. This could be activists, ecologists, and some other, and they not against. They just won't have their own peace. No one think about country. Everyone think just about themselves.
А мы рассмотрели навык геополитика и чем он полезен именно вам, всем мира.